right. Chris from New Hampshire, thank you for that call. Yeah, so yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, and I think I, to a certain extent, agree that it didn't kick on in the way that I think a lot of us thought it was going to. With this incredible generation that we have and all of the talents. While I do think it was a successful World Cup, I don't think that it had the stirring effect internationally that I think we thought it was going to have. Either players that were already there kind of kicking on and using the momentum and the positive experience to do better things, or even, some movement. We heard about Jedi Robinson after the World Cup. There were rumors about him. Obviously, Weston moved and that kind of stuff. But I get what you're saying. I'm not concerned, Chris. It's maybe we had unrealistic expectations about what was ultimately going to come out of a World Cup, as successful as it was, or as successful as it could have been. Look, you're listening to or watching someone here that knows exactly how a World Cup can change perception and the power of a World Cup. And sometimes it can give you a warped perception of what a player is. But I'm trying to think, and I can't think of somebody whose cachet and whose reputation was dramatically enhanced by what happened at the World Cup. You can probably say some that went, well, maybe Tim Ream, but Tim Ream is Tim Ream. I don't know if he's going to ultimately go anywhere. So everyone is still kind of set in their station and hasn't really used the World Cup to propel themselves up to another level. Now, all of that isn't necessarily a problem going forward. We have this other ramp now that we're looking towards when it comes to 26. But I also think that the day in and day out grind of being a professional in a club situation is very, very different than the national team. And maybe more so than other countries, I guess for lack of a better word, we care about our national team and we use it as a focus and something to bounce off ideas. And it informs us and informs our perceptions of players, maybe more so than it does elsewhere. But when you get back to your team, whatever it is, it could be playing in the EPL at some of the highest level in the world. It's still a very different type of existence day in and day out. And so you're going to have ups and downs. And, we're seeing that, whether it's with an Aaronson, like you mentioned right there. I mean, our starting goalkeeper still does not play on a regular basis when it comes to someone like Matt Turner. And then some of these young players that are going over, the Salinas and these types of players, either they're going to get loaned out or they just haven't broken through yet. And so maybe we're unrealistic in what our expectations are or were coming out of the World Cup. But I wouldn't worry about it, Chris. I don't think that this is necessarily a problem. And I don't think that any negative or what would be perceived as a step back should be attributed to the World Cup or what didn't happen for an individual or collectively for the team in the World Cup. Mosse, anything on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, big picture, I still agree with the narrative that the future is bright for U.S. soccer, that they're producing really good players. But there was a point in the last cycle where everybody was very excited about the European club pedigree in the squad, the fact that you could put together a U.S. 11, yep. And if you put the club logo next to each guy, every position was like Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Dortmund, Manchester City, and the implication was that Americans had arrived and were going to start to become super impactful, super relevant players in the upper echelons of the European club game. If we're being honest, that hasn't materialized to the degree that everyone hoped for. Now, you could go through each case, and some case it's just bad luck, injuries, but week in, week out, and even during these midweek Champions League match days, you're just not seeing a lot of Americans playing for the biggest European clubs and impacting those games. And some people are still trying to force it on Twitter and act like this is some incredible Yanks abroad period. But, if it's Leeds United, as Paul Carr points out in every tweet, that's nothing new. Fulham 15 years ago had several Americans starting for them. And, if it's somebody doing it in the Championship or the Eredivisie or the Scottish Premiership, that's nothing new either. Your generation had guys doing that. So what was supposed to be different about just this generation is that we're going to turn on the TV and watch the biggest games, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Manchester City. Juventus, PSG, etc., and see all these Americans starting week in, week out and impacting those games. And we're not there yet, if we're being honest. We thought we might be at this point. But big picture, again, I agree with you. It's not the end of the world, and we'll see how things...
We're glasses half full.
Yes.
We're glasses half full over here on the State of the Union.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops every week. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.